Charlie Kirk, Jimmy Kimmel, Cardi B, Jimmy Kimmel, Charlie Kirk, GPT, the Rapture. It's been quite an eventful month since the eclipse season has started. There's a Krishnamurti quote: "It is no measure of health to being well adjusted to an incredibly sick society." I think that describes exactly the kind of situation we're dealing with right now. There's a lot of dissonance in healing. You're trying to heal in a world that is not a world that is conducive to healing. You're trying to tell yourself that everything's all good, but it factually is not. I think what we're looking at is collective narcissism and the results of collective narcissistic abuse. And we're seeing that play out in a big way in society. If you like this so far, which I haven't said anything so far, but you should subscribe. I'm putting that earlier in the video. There was a Twilight Zone episode, actually, a very long time ago. It was called Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. And essentially what happened was the aliens invaded this town, and they were completely hidden and secret. So no one knew that aliens were there. But the aliens had weird influences. They made weird stuff happen. But since the townsfolk didn't know, and it turned the townsfolk against each other. That's what's happening here in America with the left and the right. This is basically the dynamic of a narcissistic relationship, and how the narcissism either it creates, like if you have narcissistic parents, and this is not even really an analogy because this is literally having parents is how humans pass on their behavior. So having kids is how you create a society over time. So not even an analogy, the same way in the big way as the little way. I don't know how else to say that. Narcissistic parents either create an extremely abused child, which will usually have a disorganized attachment, or they'll create a narcissistic child. And if you see that, that is basically what is played out in society. The people who succeed the most are the narcissistic or avoidant people, because in a work setting, which is all there is to life in America, is work and money. And in a workplace, which, in America, we're worked to death and not for enough money. So we don't really make enough to be able to afford to live. We have to keep working, and we have to push those feelings down, because that's all there is to life, is working. You can't get angry at work or you'll lose your job. So what ends up happening is that anger is displaced. You can't be angry at the thing that's fucking you up. You can't be angry at the thing that's actually causing you the suffering. And like in the case of the Twilight Zone episode, you don't know who's causing you the suffering. You're being brainwashed essentially by a higher intelligence, which isn't even in real life. This is not aliens. The government, I would consider a higher intelligence. An intelligence agency is a higher intelligence than you, and obviously higher intelligence than the American public, because we're not even coordinated enough to be intelligence. So we take out our anger on the wrong people, or we create fake enemies. A good example of this is Nazi Germany, where they needed a political opponent, so they chose the Jews. Exactly what's happening right now in the United States with the Hispanic population and the current political regime in power here. I've seen it in the workplace, where the boss is, being mean to my boss or something like that, or one of the bosses isn't doing enough work, so one of the other bosses has to do all the work. So that boss punishes you because they can't punish their boss, but they can be mean to you. They can push extra work onto you. They can abuse you for the job you're not doing. I've seen it play out in personal relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, the diversion of blame, because you don't have a proper entity to actually blame. So you have that energy, but you just have no one to direct that. That is what's happening with the left and the right. We are believing the propaganda of the other side, and we are intentionally being divided. It's not whose side we're on, because both sides are insanely rich, the left and the right, politically speaking. It's literally large scale narcissistic abuse, gaslighting, manipulation. If you think about the idea of distracting, the idea of depression being something that they're trying to diagnose it with you, like it's not their fault that they have created an oppressive society that drains your life. Just like the whole thing with the mass self-unalivings that happened in Japan. It's not because of a chemical imbalance. It's because of the society we're forced to live in. It's because of the daily abuse we're forced to endure. And if you speak out about it, you are punished. And I think that's what's really the scary message about the Charlie Kirk thing is, I'm black, so I obviously strongly disagree with the things he said, but I strongly believe in America and freedom of speech. And, if you're afraid to speak your thoughts, it's not really American anymore. And maybe it never has been. And maybe that's why we've never had a big political revolution or anything. It's because anyone who gets enough of a following, you see what happens to them. JFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and now, not that they're even in the same category, but if you get enough of a following that you could possibly even challenge the government, they make sure you go bye-bye. This is the source of generational trauma. It starts at colonialism, where the Western world forced their beliefs on the indigenous peoples of the world and erased their belief systems. And their belief systems were about sustainability and understanding each other. And correct me if I'm wrong, you can hit me in the comments if you're like a historian and I'm stupid, but from my understanding, when the Europeans came to the Americas, the Native Americans greeted them with respect, but the Europeans, of course, backstabbed them and stole their land. And if you think about how attachment styles develop, you think about what generational trauma is, it means somewhere deep in there was a big trauma, and colonialism was that trauma. It was the complete erasure of self to fit into an ideal, and everyone was forced to do it. Even people, I think about it this way, even English people didn't have a choice in having an English identity themselves. Even people enforcing colonialism were victims of colonialism. Because even the man who, is carrying out the Crusades is a deeply avoidant person who has to hide all his feelings. And if he does disagree with the Queen or whatever, he can't voice that, or he'll be killed. Not that much different from today. What's even worse is we've gotten really lazy. All we really do is share memes, complain. Nobody really does anything. And rightfully, we're afraid to stand up, and now we're kind of afraid to even speak our beliefs. And that is narcissistic abuse. That's what happens in a narcissistic relationship. Your voice is taken away from you, and you are told that it's your fault and that you're going insane. You need medication because what's happening right here, the situation that you're living in, is perfectly normal and acceptable. And you're the one who's messed up, and you need to get control of your emotions. And that is what causes the unrest on both sides. As we clearly see, it's not just the left, it's not just the right. Both sides are pretty upset, and even the middle. People in the middle are upset. We just express it differently. And we're not talking about just the left and the right. We're obviously talking about the radical left and the right. But obviously, we are all being pushed into a radicalized frame with all the death threats on, how they want to treat the left now. And, obviously, we need to find a way to come together, which is the way secure attachment is being able to express clearly. And I don't know how far away we are from that. I think that's why I feel like attachment styles are one of the most important things for people to learn. Maybe people will understand why they connect to a certain political ideology, where that anger actually comes from, instead of pointing fingers at someone else. It's usually your parents that you're angry with, or your parents' parents, or society itself. It's usually never the person you're pointing the finger at. The person you're pointing the finger at is 9 times out of 10 also a victim of the same system that is oppressing you. In the next video, I'm going to talk about some systems that I think from wildlife, actually, that I think would be an amazing government system, but not just an amazing government. You know, I use the word government pretty loosely. I use the word government to, like, say, you know, a group of people, a different way of interacting as human beings based on a weird animal. If you want to see that, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for when that video comes out. And there's a link in the description. We'd like you to sign up for the newsletter. I'll be sending out some amazing stuff once I get everything on track. But like I said, this month has been a doozy. But I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching this video. Click on one of these that are be-winging my head now as the thing fades out. Oh yeah, I had to change the name to Butterfly Blossom because when you Google Chrysalis, the name that my name was, for the 3 people who know, it autocorrects to regular Chrysalis, and it didn't let you type regular my name, so I changed the name so you can search it. So tell other people about this page. See ya.